Okay, we are going to get started with the IDA meeting. Jasmine, could you please take a roll call?
Tim Dean,
Present?
Mark Doyle,
Yep.
Kathy Bauer. Here. Amy Bondieri, James McCone.
Here.
Don Sagliano, Al Torriani.
Okay, as Sarah mentioned, Al will not be attending and hopefully Don and Amy will arrive shortly. Just to review our conflict of interest policy, if anybody has a conflict that they're aware of based on the agenda presented today, I would appreciate it if you would let us know and state what the conflict is.
I have a conflict with Reynolds Management, Violet Estates owners. I deal with them on a regular basis at work.
Okay, so when we have that discussion, we'll recuse you from it. And thank you. And if anybody else becomes aware of one during our discussions, please just let us know so that we can recuse you. Sarah, proof of meeting notice.
Yes,
Okay. Any bills and communications?
no bills and communications.
Okay. Approval of minutes. We really can't do that because we don't have a quorum yet.
No, we do have a quorum.
Oh, I'm
We just have
sorry. We do have it for
For
that.
that, yes.
My apologies. Okay, so we do have a quorum. Did everybody have a chance to review the minutes from the last meeting on July 13th? And if anybody has any corrections or changes, please let me know. Otherwise, I would entertain a motion to approve them.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mark. Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Roll call.
Oh, I didn't do my normal roll call. What? Jasmine, why don't we do that? I apologize.
Tim Dean,
Approved.
Mark Doyle,
Approved.
Kathy Bauer,
Approved.
James McCone.
Approved.
I serve on other boards as chair, but this one I really, hi. I really like to make sure that we do things very formally in our fiduciary responsibility. So, Jasmine, could you please mark that Amy has joined us? Amy, I went over the conflict of interest disclosure policy already. Is there anything on the agenda that you have a conflict with at this time?
No, I didn't see anything.
Okay, thank you. And let us know if you do during the
Okay.
meeting. All right. Report of the treasurer.
Yes. Looking at the balance sheet, we have cash of $2.5 million. The P&L, total income is 5.1 million. If we carve out the pilot payments, the income is 201,000 to a budget of 392,000 for an unfavorable variance of 191,000. Expenses are 5.5 million, carving out again the pilot payments. We have a $594,000 balance for expenses against a budget of 650,000 for a favorable variance of 56,000. We have net loss of 393,000, for a net loss budgeted of 259,000 for an unfavorable budget to budget by 134,000. There was a request last meeting for a list of the admin fees. So I'll just briefly go through them. Belfield, there was 6,393. The Bonera assignment was $859. Arthur May was 122,000. Belfield Lot 2 amendment was 10,441. Violet Estates special meeting 500. 2328 Creek amendment was 6,846. 3 Eastdale was $360. 1 Duchess Phase 3 was 24,000, and 34 Eastdale was 364,000 for a total of 171,000. Application fees were Hudson Valley Logistics of 1,000 and 1 Duchess Phase 3 of 1,000.
Okay. Anybody have any questions or comments about that information? Okay. Any questions about the financial presentation? We don't have to vote or approve it at this time. Okay, Sarah, are there reports of any committees?
No, no,
Okay. Unfinished business?
no.
Okay. New business. You want to kick this off for us?
Yes, well, Kathy has
Oh,
a.
I'm sorry,
I'll
yeah.
tell you first, so.
Yep, we'll wait for her. Okay,
Okay, and I just wanted so that the board, sorry, change the
that's
view.
okay.
Sarah, can I have a bottle of water, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like some water on here?
I just dropped my own part on it. It's leaking out front now. Thank you.
I couldn't change the view, so hopefully you can see Matthew when he speaks, but, Reynolds Asset Management. Okay. There you go. Reynolds Asset Management is requesting $50,000 in additional sales tax benefit to complete the Violet Estates project. They're making a presentation this morning, and then they will come back at a future meeting for their final approval. Since the benefit amount is less than $100,000, no public hearing is required on this request, but and no board action is required at this time. So this is their first request for sales tax benefit as related to the project. And joining us via Zoom is Matthew Earl, one of the partners in the project.
Good morning, board members. It's a pleasure to be meeting with you. Thank you very much for making the time and allowing us this opportunity to present to you and make this request. It's been almost 2 years since we started working. Well, it's been over 2 years since we started working with the Dutchess County IDA. Almost 2 years since we finalized our pilot for Violet Estates, and it's been an interesting 2 years, as you guys all are aware, but it's been a great 2 years, and I'm hopeful that some of you have been able to see the progress that we've made on the site. We're really pleased with how things have come together. It's taken a little bit longer, and it's been a little bit more expensive than we had originally hoped and anticipated, but that is the nature of the beast sometimes, and it's just a confluence of macroeconomic events which really have led us to where we are today, which is our request for an additional exemption amount for our sales tax exemption. Our original request at the time of application was $3 million in exempt purchases, which equated to $243,750 in exemption. Through August, we've spent $2,980,000 of that $3 million. So we have essentially exhausted our original requested exemption amount. We think we have 3 months to complete. So our request is to increase our exemption amount by $615,385, which equates to a $50,000 exemption of sales taxes on those purchases. We're spending roughly $150,000 a month on materials that are sales taxable. So we believe that this amount should get us through to the finish line without having to come back for an additional exemption or an amendment, and in fact, provide us with a reasonable buffer here. So we are requesting what we believe to be sufficient and conservative, but we believe that this is the right amount to request, and will provide us with what the project needs to complete and through CO. So that's a summary of where we are. I'm happy to walk through some of the details of why we are requesting additional the cost increases we've incurred throughout the project, the time delays. I'm happy to walk through all of that if anyone has questions or would like me to do so.
Okay, I have some questions, but if other members have some as well, I'd be happy to allow them to start. Anybody have any questions? So, Mark, go ahead.
I was wondering if the scope of the project has changed, recently, or, since you made your original application.
No, the scope of the project has not changed. What has changed, unfortunately, is the cost of construction. No, the plans have not changed. We've really stuck to the letter of the approvals here, minor color changes or things like that. And we have tried to value engineer where possible, wherever we can to, if it's, we can't get this type of lumber, we'll go back to the architect requesting an ability to change for an equitable type of lumber, which we can get at all. At certain points, it was difficult to get materials almost at all, regardless of the price. But we were able to get and also potentially save dollars. So we have not changed the scope. The property as it sits right now, and if you go by, we have all 6 buildings constructed. We're finishing the last 2 now, but that was the original approval even before we got involved. So the scope has not changed. The only thing that's changed is really the cost of everything. But in this as it relates to this conversation, it's the cost of materials.
Thank you.
So my questions surround, I have made comments at these meetings before that, our job is to ask the what fors. And, would this project be able to be finished if we didn't do this? And my comment has been in the past that I think it seems reasonable that if the reason someone first came to us and asked for their large, initial sales tax exemption, if the economic situation is the same as then, it's understandable. In this case, it sounds like in the cost of the materials aspect of the project, it's gotten more expensive for you, not less. However, I just wanted to ask you, in regard to the overall project, are there other aspects of this project where you've been able to find efficiencies or save costs that are keeping the entire project budget on track? As an example, have you been able to find labor efficiencies that keep it, even though the materials costs have gone up, other aspects of it have allowed you to maintain your budget?
I wish I could say yes. The answer on the cost side is no. Labor, in addition to materials, the cost of labor has gone up, and and I think related to that is the availability of labor. I think they go hand in hand. Labor costs have gone up because the demand for labor has gone up, and in this market, it's been difficult for us to find a large number of vendors who can complete certain tasks, which only adds to the supply demand issue on the labor side. Where we have been able to, I guess, keep things in check somewhat from a project standpoint is that rents have gone up slightly. We're in a very unique niche market with a 55 plus market rate. Not typically, but oftentimes you'll find that senior housing is assisted or some kind of amenitized, like service oriented facility. Our project is a fully market rate independent living community. So our market segment is quite small, which is fine. We're doing very well. Well, I'd say we're doing well in terms of our lease up. So we have people living there, happy, and rents have gone up slightly from our original underwriting, which was over 2 years ago. So that has helped to buffer from a completed project standpoint the blow from the cost. We have actually, and you guys are aware of this because you were involved, but we had to refinance this project with a new lender because our original loan was not going to be sufficient to cover the total cost of the project. So I guess in summary, to answer your question, we are really searching for every dollar we can find here from a savings perspective, because we are even with our new loan, we're doing everything we can to bring this home at our new budget, which increased when we got our new refinance. So that's the, I hope I answered your question.
Yes, no, that was fine. I appreciate that. Does anybody else have any questions? Okay, Sarah, can you one more time just review the requirements for the next steps about a public hearing or need for that?
Yep, so this request is under $100,000, so we are not required to hold a public hearing. It has not been it's been the practice of the IDA not to hold public hearings for projects where the benefit amount is less than $100,000. So, moving forward, they'll just come to the next meeting for their final
Assuming that
approval.
we do the preliminary today, then.
Well, it's just a presentation. There's no
I'm
board
sorry,
action. So
that's
it's just a
right.
presentation, an opportunity for the board to ask questions. We did receive after business hours last night, a email from a member of the public, not in favor of the benefit amount. I will share that with the board after this meeting.
Okay.
I just opened it this morning, so,
Okay.
but basically they would come back in October for their approval.
Okay. Does anybody on the board want to make the applicant aware of any information they'll be looking for at that we haven't discussed yet?
Think it'd be really useful to just review the total scope, like, the size of the building, the number of units. You've already spoken to the market, but just give us
Right, you mean-
a refresher,
Sure.
a quick refresher on
Yeah,
what.
that'd be great.
Or the pre-construction cost versus the final anticipated construction cost with the material
Sure.
expense.
Matthew, are you prepared to do that now?
I can certainly address the first question.
Okay.
I would appreciate the opportunity to just go back to I don't have our original budget in front of me right now. I can kind of speak in generalities, but
Okay.
in terms of the first question, so this project is 84 units and 8,000 square feet of retail that are on the Violet Avenue frontage. The retail is specifically contained in the first two buildings right there on Violet Avenue. The 84 units range from, we have 2 studios. No, I'm sorry, we have more than that. In the first two buildings, we have 2 studios, but they range from studios to townhomes. We have, our largest units are almost 2,000 square feet, 2-story townhomes. If any of you are interested, we'd love to give you guys a tour of the property anytime. We're really very proud of the finished product that we've put together there for our tenants. So the last 2 buildings, so 6 buildings total. The remaining 2 buildings, E and F, which are just finishing up now, those are both elevator service buildings. They contain the majority of our units. There's roughly 50 units in those back 2 buildings. The front 4 buildings are majority townhome buildings, so less units, but larger units. They are walk-up units. So again, just related to our market segment, it is a specific product that is not for everyone. But if it is for you, we think it's a great solution for people who are potentially looking to downsize from a home and or single family home into a more of a community type of feel with neighbors of your peers and things of that nature. Amenities wise, we have a really nice community center with a gym, TV area, coffee bar, game center or game room. We have 2 bocce courts. We have a community garden. So it's a really beautiful community. We really think it's coming together really, really nicely. That's kind of the summary of the actual physical property itself. In terms of our cost to complete budget, roughly costs have gone up total costs have gone up roughly. Our total, I don't want to misspeak.
Yeah, so I'm just going to stop you for a second. If you feel more comfortable holding that until our next meeting, that's fine. I don't want you to feel pressured if you're not prepared.
I appreciate that. I'd rather give you guys the right answer than
Mhm.
say something and then go back and realize I was wrong. So
Sure.
I do appreciate that, and I will
Yeah.
certainly be prepared to give you guys that information
Sure.
interstitially, through email after this meeting or at our next meeting in October.
If you can send something in advance of the meeting, that's great.
Yep.
And I think that, I think what the group is looking to understand is to make sure that, that your costs have actually increased and have created a need for this benefit. Based on our discussion so far, we're hearing that, but I think seeing something, in writing is helpful to us.
Absolutely, no problem at all. We'll get something
Okay.
together for you guys by the end of the week.
Okay, all right.
Actually, I have a question for Sarah, but I think that maybe helps sort of clarify the process a little bit. And that is that in order to it's sort of a reimbursement program, correct? So they have to turn over their expenses for you to.
Well, it's not a reimbursement, but at the time of purchase, they show a sales tax exemption
Right.
form. But it is, we do monitor it twice a year. We ask for a copy of their annual filing with New York State Tax and Finance. They have to file on an annual basis how much tax exempt spending they have done. And then we ask halfway, just to monitor that they're not going over, to mitigate any kind of recapture, or if they're close and things. And this is actually an instance of that, is that they did their mid-year filing. They were very close to their limit. And they realized that they still had more construction to complete. So.
But your question, I think, is it's correct in that unless they spend it, they're there to purchase the material, they can't use the benefit.
Yeah.
So our biggest concern would be if they exceeded the amount that we've granted them in tax exemption.
Or if the project had changed, they'd added on to the project in some way that we hadn't originally approved.
Correct.
Which neither seems to be the case.
Yes. Okay, I think we're good. So we look forward to the additional information, and it sounds like you're probably going to be on the agenda for our October meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's great. Thank you guys very much. It's a pleasure to meet with you, and look forward to meeting with you next month.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So, okay, so we can bring
Kathy back in.
Kathy back in. Okay, our next topic on the agenda is really, and Sarah, I'll let you kick it off again, a discussion about local workforce utilization policy. And I think the reason for this discussion is, there's a lot of supply and demand issues around labor, and there has been some requests, not a formal request, but informal requests of the IDA LDC to consider expanding, contracting some of these things. So.
Yes. So just to add on to what Tim has said, is that I have gotten an informal request from one of the trades about looking at if the IDA could look at the local labor policy, in particular, the waiver requests where we have the 10% threshold.
So just expand on that just a little bit more.
So
What our policy?
yes, so our current policy is for that, we have 4 waivers, and one of them is a cost differential. If a bid using local labor is over 10%, that is considered a significant cost differential. And therefore, a waiver can be granted if they can show that they have used their best effort to try to incorporate local labor, but despite their efforts, they cannot, and they choose a vendor that is less than that 10%.
Who's not local.
Who is not local.
Mm-hmm.
So this particular trade had asked if the board would consider raising that threshold, because they are finding that they are unable to compete with that 10% threshold.
It's too bad Al's not here for that.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and again, there's no motion needed. There's as much discussion as we want. And perhaps one of the things we may say, might be reasonable to say that we would like to table this for when another one of our board members is present who is, somebody that you would consider
Proficient.
a person qualified to talk about it. So is there anything that we would like to talk about now, or does it make sense to defer that discussion?
I think we should defer.
I think we should defer.
Okay, all right, so we'll bring it up again at the next meeting. Again, we have no request and we're not required to take any action this time. Our policy is in effect. Okay, is there anything else there that we need to talk about in this meeting?
Yes, so one last topic is I'll actually leave it to Don Capellino to describe.
Yeah, there's a bit of litigation going on. It's minor and really not related to the board at all, but you should know about it. There is a group that is suing really intending to sue the banks. We're not a party to the matter. Suing the banks, claiming on behalf of public agencies. That would include this agency.
Are we part of a class? Is that what you're suggesting?
Well, it's really not a class action. What it is, it's called Edelweiss Fund is now suing, it's called Ex-Relator New York State, meaning on behalf of the state. And they're trying to bring sort of a taxpayer's claim.
Okay.
But they're specifically affected, they claim. And it is like a class action. It's similar because what happens is they're going after a whole slew of matters, including, if the dormitory authority is lending or any other ones lending, those are directly affecting the taxpayers. The IDA is only a conduit.
Okay, yes.
And I think if this is misdirected to include us, but we've received in the past papers and then it was just set aside. But now it's become very active and there are papers this thick coming in and they're asking us as far as 5 IDA projects going back to 2007 and 2008. Their claim is simply that there were swaps involved, meaning that they were bonds that were variable rate demand obligations. And those variable rates, they were reset weekly. And they're claiming that there was some collusion among the lenders to inflate the swap cost. The swap is a way for when they elect to swap the borrowers, that they are trying to fix the rate and they pay something to some others who take the risk. They shift the risk to them and there's a swap. And they're saying that the banks got together and upped the rate. During this time, the rate was, we're talking about, 8 basis points or something, really, really low. The interest rates are historically low. And what kind of benefit they got from that sounds, it sounds odd. But the important part is, as far as the IDA is concerned, the IDA does not get involved. We don't know about the swaps. So many of those swaps are done after it's done. If it is done during this, we don't even participate in it. That's between the trustee, et cetera. But because we're just a conduit, the bonds are sold,
Right.
and no taxpayer money is involved in that. We just provide the tax exemption from income taxes, so it's not related. But that means that we have to go through documents that they've asked for a subpoena, and they can't subpoena a governmental agency without a court order. Sarah received a stack of papers with the subpoena payment, and signed by the applicant, by the attorneys, but not by the judge.
Right.
So we don't have to apply. So they're just going to court. And Sarah got an $18 fee. I told her she can file it, but you know, it's fine. But in order to do this, when we first got it, we need to know, you know, what involved. So we went through an initial review of all of our documents. There's nothing we found that's not in any of the transcripts, to whether or not we have to go through emails, most of which are archived. Sarah was not even here at the time, but we will if we have to. But we've already spent some time on it. And Nixon Peabody has done a lot of work with us, and they were involved in, out of the 5 deals, I think they were bond counsel to us on 2 or 3 of them.
3, I think. 3 of them.
And they are also representing other IDAs. So in order to respond to this very heavy set of papers, I was talking to Bill Weir from Nixon Peabody, whom we use on a regular basis, and he's offered to have his firm do it. And I talked to Sarah, and she said she can't. Bill has donated his time, but he has a partner who's put together a very thorough and good responses to say, you really have the wrong part.
Can't we get removed?
Through that.
Right.
But, and there may be some kind of agreement to just hold it off and see if they can get all the documentation from all the others. But I just wanted to advise the board that this is going on. There are some costs related to this, unfortunately, but I think that they're minimal. I don't expect there to be a problem. And if the judge signs it, says, yes, you have to go through that, then it can be costly because we will have to, it's going to cost a lot of time on both sides to resurrect all the archived documents, knowing that, and if there's a reference to a swap, we have to give them the information. Not that it has any ultimate impact. I mean, it's.
So the first step, I'm assuming, is to just ask to be removed completely. And the second step would be, if they don't agree to that, to hold on our subpoena, waiting to see.
Wait for the judge to sign.
Well, yeah, we're not agreed
The
with that.
judge signs and it gets served on us.
Yeah.
But they served it on Sarah as though
Right.
the judge had signed it.
Oh.
And that was, you know, that was real questionable. And it may, you know, we're attributing it to, you know, just a clerical error
Yeah.
at this point, so.
Now, is that just our idea, these 5 deals, or it's numerous?
No, they're going.
Okay, so it's 5 deals within ours.
This IDA.
Okay.
But they're going after other IDAs as well. And they're, I think every IDA, but they've taken, the IDA is a New York State benefit corporation, public benefit corporation. But there are others that are doing direct financing. And so we're not conduit financing like the IDA. So it does affect taxpayers if they can prove their case.
Okay.
All right.
Well, that's great.
Just thought I'd let you know.
Okay, anything else?
Yeah, and I just have one last announcement is, we did get a request from, Eastdale. We are going to be holding a public hearing, and then they will come, at the October, meeting. They are planning to, construct an Urgy Center at the property, where, they will not be a majority owner of that property. The project agreements allow for a public hearing to be called without board preliminary approval. So we will be holding the public hearing.
This is just to reassign benefits already granted?
Yeah, correct. So it is what the board has seen before, standard with that. So yes, that will be at a future meeting.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, we're going to adjourn the IDA meeting.